I'm excited to introduce you to Stephen Gardner. Stephen is a guy that it seemed he would be unlikely to create a side hustle that didn't only succeed, but blew up into a big business on YouTube. And when you hear how he did it and how he didn't follow the conventional rules, yet became this unlikely star, I think you'll be not only motivated to do something like this yourself, but you're going to learn specific steps on how to get there. So enjoy my interview with Stephen Gardner. Steve, I think you're the poster child for what we have to talk about here today. Your story is inspiring, and I think it's very relevant to what we want people to understand. So before you became a YouTube phenomenon, what were you doing?
I did financial planning through insurance products for about 13 years. Before I did that, I did try to get into YouTube. So my YouTube channel is actually older than my oldest child.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
But until I really took it serious and looked at it as an opportunity to make money, it was just something I was testing and trying. But before that, I was mainly focused on writing books, financial education, helping people safely prepare for retirement.
So then COVID hits. And your YouTube channel at that point is not really doing much of anything, right? I mean, how often were you posting then?
I was about one time a week, and I had 200 subscribers.
Okay, sorry, didn't mean to laugh. So you're doing this for years. You're posting every week, and you got 200 subscribers. So, but yeah, what kept you posting? You just enjoyed the process, or?
I knew it was going to take some time. I had no idea what my path would be going forward, but I just knew I needed to create content. And
Right.
I have this 3-step process for everything I do, which is action, traction, attraction.
Right.
And I knew I needed to take massive amounts of action, and then something would start to stick. I would start to get some grip, but I just had to have that grit. And then eventually, I would start attracting people to me. And I've used that in multiple businesses over time. But when you only have 200 people and most of them are family and friends, and you put out a video and it has 5 views and 4 of them are you checking if you got any more views, it can be very disheartening. But I have a personality that doesn't like to give up. And so I just kept putting out content, looking for patterns, and eventually found a pattern.
COVID hits, and that's when things started to change, if I know the
Yes.
story properly, right? So what happened?
So all of a sudden, I found myself in lockdown, and my wife was very, very sick. I thought maybe she had COVID. I was trying to keep the kids away from her. I was trying to figure out my business. I went from making $8,000 to $10,000 a month to owing these insurance companies $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 because people were backing out. I was getting hit with back charges.
Oh, wow.
People were like, listen, I can't move forward, or can you scale back my retirement contributions? And suddenly I was like, honey, I got to go get a job. Like, I don't know what to do. I've got to switch careers. And so I just started making videos every day about emergency preparedness, how to survive COVID, just any topic I could think of, until I noticed a pattern. And once I hit that pattern, then it was like, okay, maybe people want to know this. But ultimately, it was me doing the research I thought was interesting and then just sharing it online.
With how to get, like, because there were, I guess, COVID checks, if you will, people getting reimbursed, who were put out of work or what have you. And because I remember I was watching these videos, and you would hold up, I think, little cards and explain things really well, and shepherd people through a process of how to get relief based on the lockdowns and what was going on. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, that's a great word, shepherd, because the government wasn't putting out a lot of information, and the information they were putting out, you'd have to go on CNN or Fox News or MSNBC, and you'd have to watch 2 or 3 hours of the news cycle to get 5 minutes of information. And so for me, it was like, okay, the riches are in the niches. What's that niche that I can find? It's like, okay, people want information about the PPP program as a business owner. They need information about the stimulus checks. They need information about unemployment. And you had tens of millions of people panicking for information. I couldn't talk about COVID. I couldn't talk about masks or anything. So it was literally just, okay, I'm in numbers and finance, I'll just stick to the money side of the COVID problem. And that's when all of a sudden I had a video get like 1,000 views. And I was like, wow, I'm onto something here. And then I had another video, and then I tried something else and nobody wanted to watch that one. And I was like, okay, I can learn from these failures.
Right.
These people are indicating to me what they want to see. And so I just looked for the patterns of what they were wanting, when that news cycle should release, the words that I should use. The funny thing is, people are like, how do you get views? You have the most ugly thumbnails on the planet. Because I didn't know how to make a thumbnail. And I was literally making 3 videos a day, 7 days a week to keep up with the demand. So I would just hold up a piece of paper and smile. Or if it was bad news, I would frown. And they both seemed to get views, And so I just kept it really, really simple with information that people were basically desperate to have. And so that's when I started to see that increase in subscribers and views on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's views are like votes, right? They're kind of voting on what they want. And this was all organic, right? I mean, you to your point, like it wasn't like, oh, you had a sophisticated marketing agency that was creating thumbnails for you and you split testing things and, kind of really building the site and driving traffic through paid. This was a completely organic process for you, correct?
Yeah. In fact, to this day, I have marketing agencies that will sit down with me and their first comment is, we don't know why you're successful. And I'm like, I don't either. So at least we're on the same page, And so, they'll look at me and they're like, okay, your delivery's terrible. Your scripting looks really bad. Your thumbnail's really bad. And so over time, I took that as feedback to improve. But at the end of the day, I just knew people wanted to be told the truth and have really good information. And as ugly as my content was, it met the need. And so I just stuck with that. But yeah, to this day, I still have people that are like, I don't know why you're successful. Your stuff's terrible. And I'm like, well, you have 10,000 subscribers, so maybe I'm doing something right.
And you're
doing something wrong. So quit taking the YouTube courses and just look for what's working.
Right.
So, but yeah.
It's really quite a story, and you're able now to support yourself just on YouTube, right?
Yes, it's my more than full-time job.
Yeah. And then COVID ends, right? And did you have this moment of, well, like maybe that party's over, or how did you process that? Because some might say, he kind of like there was a big disruption in the world. He filled a niche, as you described. But when that's over, he's done because he doesn't do any of the things everybody else does on YouTube.
Yeah, I've always been good at pattern recognition, and so I was the first one. So all of a sudden, within this stimulus vertical, all these channels started popping up, most of them stealing my content, my ideas, and all of a sudden my views started to go down because the topic got watered down. And we went from like 3 channels to 300 channels.
Wow.
Of people competing and using my content against me. And so, but the thing that I was good at was, okay, this check is done, I would skip to the next check. And so I started putting it out. People say, you're crazy, why are you talking about this? I'm like, I'm trying to stay ahead of the trend, right? So I would say about 18 months into that, I realized, okay, there could be another check, there might not be. So the best thing I could give people is the truth in consolidated information. And so I was on vacation in the Caribbean on my anniversary vacation. And I said to my wife, I need to start testing new things within my videos and letting people give me feedback through their views on whether they liked it or not. Because otherwise I'm going to be a flash in the pan and then I'm out of business, right? And so when I came back, I started testing like humorous videos, like telling wild stories, and I would get views, 40,000, 100,000, but I was like, this is not sustainable. And so I started into the political news and the current event news, which is a very, very competitive space. Yeah. It's just massive, going up against Fox News and CNN and these other behemoths. But again, I just felt like if I could stick to the truth and give them the news in about 15 minutes or less. So I started mixing in about 25% regular news and then 75% government updates. And then eventually over time, I switched those. And then there was just a day where I was like, okay, I don't believe there's going to be any more government assistance, and I don't believe in lying. And so I just cold turkey stopped. And I saw other channels do this, and their views just like dropped, and mine did too. And I was like, okay, I just need to be patient. I've built all this trust, familiarity, celebrity status.
What are your subscriber levels at this point?
At this point, I'm at about 700,000.
Okay.
And today I'm at 1.25 million.
Wow.
So I've almost doubled. And so, but I was willing to go through that pain to have integrity with myself and my channel until I found the next topic that could take me to back to where I was or to new heights. Now it's at new heights. But I started going into the political and the current events, but I didn't pick sides. I tried very, very hard to be neutral. And people found that, I believe, refreshing because if you like Biden, you don't want Biden to be trashed every video. If you like Trump, you don't want Trump to be trashed every video. You just want to know, what are these guys doing for the country as we head into the election? What's happening with the economy? Are we going to have a recession or not?
Right.
Are they lying to us about having a recession or not?
So you became basically a news reporter.
I became a news
current
reporter.
events.
Yep. And so I just slowly transitioned over time, and then I started taking feedback. Okay, I do need to work. I need to have a more polished approach. I need to switch up my script. I do need to have a little bit better thumbnail. But these things came over time, and they made marginal differences. At the end of the day, I still believe me just being truthful and consolidated with information is what made me successful.
So, I mean, very few people achieved what you just described. In other words, there's not many people even have like the you stumble into success scenario like you had, but even very much smaller percentage that can actually transition from one theme of what you're there for to a completely, I would say completely different, still kind of news, but it was you had very niched or targeted news versus here's the current events. Here's what I suspect, and tell me if you agree with the statement. It's because of the trust you built with the audience that you brought with you that they stuck with you and still want to hear more from you. Is that your read on it, or why do you think it worked?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was doing financial planning with people, I would move millions of dollars over the phone, never meeting any of these people, and I would be a speaker, keynote speaker at conferences all over the country, and they would ask me all the time, like, how do you do this? What are you doing? How are you selling this? What's your approach? And I'd say, I only ever sell one thing, trust. That's it. It's the only thing I try to sell. I don't sell insurance. I don't sell retirement planning, mutual fund. I just sell trust. And so I do believe being that trusted voice where it's like, okay, he's going to delve into Democrat topics. He's going to delve into Republican topics, libertarian topics. But I try to be very fair from both sides. And again, just sharing that information. But at the end of the day, I knew that I was the linchpin. I can't be replaced. If I bring somebody else on my channel, it's going to take a long time to get the traction. And so I just had to be true to my viewers and be very, very consistent.
Do you enjoy it?
I do.
Yeah?
I do. I went through a time where it started to bog me down. Doing 3 videos a day, 7 days a week. I was just burning the candle at, all 3.
Was that in the COVID times?
Yeah, that was during the COVID times. And then as the presidential election was going and people were still needing stimulus, I was doing 2 videos plus going live for an hour every night. And
How did the live work? Did people come to your live events?
Yeah, there were times I had 25 to 30,000 people watching me at once.
Live.
Yeah, it's like...
I mean, that's competing with some network news or cable news, right?
Yeah, and it was very intimidating. I goof up a lot, and it was...
But maybe that's the refreshing part, where they say, hey, the guy's real, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were times where I was like, okay, there's more people watching me than the Utah Jazz basketball stadium. That's intimidating for a guy who considers himself an introvert, So, but I was like, okay, some of these people are foes, most of them are friends. I'm just going to deliver the news like I always do. But yeah, going live was new for me, and it was very intimidating. To this day, I haven't been live in probably 18 months because it's that intimidating.
Wow. And you do this still from your house, or do you have a studio? What do you do?
I still do this from my house.
Wow.
Created an office.
And you know all the good tax strategies for writing that off, right?
Yes.
So that's another benefit of this. But so why I'm bringing that up is that you can build and work from home and be successful at it.
Yes.
You don't have to go out and try to find space. So let's say now somebody's watching this. I want to give them some like practical steps there. Let me tease a few things out. Tell me if you agree or disagree, and then maybe what advice you might have for them. So first off is that you actually said, I need to be able to talk about something that I have pretty good expertise in, that I feel confident that I can give good information here. Is that the first step? Figure out what you can, if somebody says, I want to start a YouTube channel, I'm willing to go through some time to figure out, like you did, maybe not as many years, but go through some time, because if I could set this up and make some side money and maybe grow it into a full-time business, that would be my dream. What is the first step? Let me ask you rather than put the words in your mouth.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say you have to, you don't have to be an expert at something, but you have to at least be passionate about it. Mm-hmm. And you have to know that there's at least 1,000 people that are, interested in that. Mm-hmm. I know people on YouTube that make hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million a year, and then they have a very small audience.
How?
Well, they have like coaching programs,
I see.
Or they have something where the video is free and they are educating you, but then you come into their funnel and now you can make money with selling some kind of package, program, tool, software, whatever it is. And so it becomes a lead mechanism. Versus you're making money from YouTube revenue or ads or sponsors. But I would say it has to be something that you're, interested in, passionate about, knowledgeable about, and then be able to succinctly convey that information and educate people or entertain them. There's a lot of people making really big money on YouTube just being entertaining.
Right.
I don't know that I'm entertaining, but
And do they make the money from just YouTube, from views, or are they selling other stuff? Or
I would say, just from what I know, most people that are making good money on YouTube, it's most likely from sponsors.
Okay.
Or from selling something that they have ownership over, whether that's a coaching package or a how-to program or something like that. Something that they either control or somebody else doesn't want to build the channel, but they want to use you to sell their product or their program. Most people aren't making their money from YouTube ad revenue. It's from just having that platform give you access to an audience you can sell things to.
And do you have sponsors for your show?
I do.
And so what percentage of your income would you say comes from sponsors versus YouTube ad revenue?
In the first year, YouTube was the majority of my income, and then my financial practice. And then I would say in year 2, sponsorship and YouTube were very similar. In last year, I had more sponsors than I could handle.
Wow.
Sometimes 10 to 13 a month. And at that time, I had scaled back to doing 21 to 24 videos. So it was like every other video. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
But then now I've scaled it back enough that it's maybe 4 or 5 a month.
And do they come find you, or do you find them? Or
I actually hired a brand manager in New York, and he and his team, they handle finding them, contracting, making sure I get paid. Did I hit my numbers? Did I fulfill my contract? So having somebody that can handle that was huge.
Yeah, because like I was listening to Tim Ferriss' podcast this morning, for example, and there's like a whole bunch of sponsors he reads before he gets into the podcast. But I don't know that I remember seeing those in your videos. So where do the sponsors get? Is it like kind of in between where it cuts to the sponsor and then?
I do what's called really subtle marketing.
Yeah.
So I'll take somebody through 5 or 6 minutes of news, and then I'll say, I'm going to tell you about a sponsor for a minute. And then, for example, like this is a shoe company, Vessi Shoes.
Yeah. I like those.
Yeah, they're totally waterproof. I love them. They clean really easily.
Yeah.
So I'll do a 60-second commercial about that, and then I thank them and I say, let's get back to today's news.
Yes.
And then I flow right back out.
Just
And
like
so
the networks.
It goes really, really smooth.
Yeah.
I've done certain things, like I'll wear the same outfit so that it's even more continuity
Right.
through the whole thing. So I had to learn all of that.
Yeah.
And I goofed up a lot.
Yeah.
The sponsors were patient with me.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to edit. If I didn't know how to make a thumbnail, I didn't know how to edit, right? And so I had to learn. I learned so many skills.
Did you edit in the beginning?
I still don't edit.
Okay, yeah. So you
Yeah,
you formed that. out.
unless it's like a short
Yeah.
or something. But even like my big interviews that I do that get hundreds of thousands of views, for the most part, there's very, very little editing. It would make your team here crazy. But anyway, so now I would say the sponsors are maybe 25 to 30% of my income, and the other 70% is just YouTube.
Yeah, so it's still the majority is
Yeah.
still coming from YouTube, but it's
Yep.
good that you have the sponsors to kind of add to it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is, and because the hard part is building an audience, and that's a valuable thing for a sponsor. So I could see how that would happen. But now circling back to the guy or the gal, the person getting started. So they're going to basically, what do I have a passion about? And I think that's probably important because I have to imagine, especially if you're doing multiple videos a day for a period of time, boy, if you're doing it on a topic that you had no passion around, that could be very tough.
Yeah.
So find something you're passionate about. Okay, so now what's the next step, would you say, for them?
Then you need to start finding your own unique style. If you just copy other channels, then you're just like everybody else, right? So you have to find your own style. You have to get comfortable with presenting. At the end of the day, everything you do is a story. So you have to think about, what's going to hook people. How am I going to entertain them? How am I going to educate them? I would say, find the thing that you feel comfortable talking about. Start finding the audience, and then start putting out the content, long form content, short form content, and then also the shorts, which is a new feature in the last year where you can build an audience very quickly, but they have a shorter attention span. And so it's like, how do I so YouTube helped me get you. How do I now get you over to watch the long form content that I can actually make more money? But there's entire channels of Gen Z kids out there that have millions of subscribers. They make me jealous, but all of their content is shorts.
So what is considered long, short, and then shorts themselves?
Yeah, so I try to keep my videos under 15 minutes, my interviews under 45 minutes. That's a lot to ask of somebody to watch that long. I remember back in the day, Facebook was all the rage because they could keep people on their platform for 4 minutes.
Wow.
It was like marketers' dreams, right? And some of my videos, I'm holding them anywhere from 6 to 15 minutes, which is incredible. And so those would be considered long. I'm helping build my wife's YouTube channel for her relationship coaching company. And we try to keep things under 7 minutes, typically 3 to 5 minutes.
But I look at like a Joe Rogan, he's 2.5 hours, 3 hours, or some of these other guys. Are they just breaking the rules, or?
Joe Rogan set the precedence for long form content.
Okay.
And it took him a long time. He said, I think he said, I made hundreds of episodes before I got traction.
Yeah.
Hundreds of episodes, right? But he wanted that to be his style, so he had to find his unique style. And now he has such raving fans that they're literally willing to spend 2 or 3 hours a day with him. I listen to him regularly, but on twice the speed.
Yeah.
Just because I'm busy,
And incrementally,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yep.
like you don't do the whole thing at once, but you take a piece and.
And there's interviews that I'm like, not interested in that one, very interested in this one,
Right.
and that's the one that gets my attention over maybe a 2 or 3 day period.
And then shorts are what, like just a minute or?
60 seconds or less. Yeah.
That's considered the shorts.
Yeah.
Because I'm noticing that on YouTube. That's kind of a new phenomenon, right?
Yeah, they're trying to compete with TikTok, but at the same time, they just in like the last 60 days added a revenue component. It pays about 1/10 of what a regular video pays. But if you get millions and millions of views. So for me, I use shorts as a way of getting in front of new eyeballs, but then I try to push them over to my long form content.
Right.
And I'm committed to my long form content where, like I say, a lot of these younger people, They're just doing the shorts.
Are they posted in a different place than your normal channel, the shorts, or are they posted like, with everything else?
They're posted with everything else. I would say the best way to understand it is when you hit go, they go down different rabbit holes.
I see.
Yeah, so like my content, when I hit go, it'll go out to my people and then either hit the YouTube homepage or it'll start picking up people that are searching keywords.
Yep.
Where a short, most shorts, you don't know they're coming, they just give them to you. And then you decide, I like this or I don't like it. It's just swipe,
Right.
And so that's why I say it goes down a totally different rabbit hole, whole new set of eyeballs. But then how do you convince somebody who's trained their brain to watch something for 60 seconds or less to now give you that 6 minutes?
Right.
And that's where I'm even still learning, but I've been able to do it to the point where now YouTube's paying me and now the sponsors are paying me.
Yeah. So, and I guess this goes back to your pattern recognition abilities, right? You're seeing how people are reacting to shorts and how it might best work for you. It sounds like it's a great audience builder. For some, gets somebody's attention for a moment. They see what you do and they go subscribe, and then.
If I was starting over today, I would start with shorts. And then push to a long form video.
Interesting.
But knowing that shorts will be more dominant, but I'm going to make 1/10 of the money.
Yeah.
So it has to be a blend.
Yeah.
But then you can throw in sponsors.
Right.
It's a little bit harder to do a sponsor in 60 seconds
I was
or
going to say,
less.
yeah. So how do you do a sponsor in a short? That's got to be tough.
Yeah, it is.
So, all right. So now they found something they're passionate about. They're going to start to launch. To this day, do you spend any money on driving traffic to your site, or is it still all organic?
I do now. So I hired a group out of Miami to help me with my email list. I've been doing these giveaways of $5,000 to $10,000 for about 3 years now, and unbeknownst to me, I had an email list of about 400,000 people and didn't know it.
When you say giveaways, I mean, how are you giving away the cash?
So I just let them know that, I've been blessed by sponsors and income, and I want to give back to people in the community, so they will go sign up. I capture their email, and then they're notified whether they were a winner or not.
Kind of a lottery?
Yeah, kind of a lottery similar to that, where I just, I was trying to help people financially during the lockdown. And now I've gone to bigger numbers because of the income increasing. But from that, I built this massive email list that I wasn't capitalizing on. So now I don't really try to sell them anything, but I'll use that to drive people to specific videos that I believe are important to them. So I now pay a couple $1,000s to have my email list pushing back to my own content.
Right. But they're already subscribers probably if they were in the contest, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. And
but you
so-
don't do any of those in-stream type of ads that might, that you can pay for to drive people to your
No,
page?
when I was doing the financial planning, I would do that, and it is a great way to build an audience and make money. I did make money doing financial planning that way, but as far as building my channel has been 100% organic.
That's really incredible. I speak to a lot of YouTube people. You're the only one I think that's gotten to the level you have in an organic fashion. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I just let the content speak for itself.
Yeah, wow. The content everybody else says you're doing wrong. I love this. The people who are 10% of you tell you that, hey, you're not doing this right.
Yeah, I guess no guts, no glory.
Yeah.
The fact that I just go for it, I think has benefited me overall.
That's amazing. So now to set up the channel, I mean, it's really very low cost, right? So this fictitious person who said, I found my little niche. I've got excitement about baseball cards. I don't know, whatever it might be, and I think I could really build an audience here in this niche. And then it's just a matter of creating some videos and posting. You said starting out with some shorts. Anything they should know special about setting up their channel? Like, there's a right or a wrong way to do it, or do you just kind of like put up a banner, fill in the blanks?
Yeah, so much of the learning comes from failing, so I would hate to rob somebody of that. But you do want to think through your name. Like I have a friend, he's in Florida. He's built a channel to about 40,000 people, but nobody knows how to search him because his name's just Kevin. And so like having a clever name or being specific about your channel name is really important. Mine's just Stephen Gardner.
Right.
And so that's my best search term to this day is just my own name.
Right.
But, you know, if it was mountain biking, you might want to be clever about that.
Yeah.
But titling is very, very important. I think more important than thumbnails. And then thumbnails would be number 2, your video description. What you're trying to do is you're trying to think through what metadata can I feed YouTube so that YouTube can do all the work for me.
Right.
And if you're trying to do all of the work...
Can you just explain what metadata is in case somebody doesn't understand?
Yeah, so when you tell them what the video is about, keywords, tags, hashtags, YouTube is using all of this data. Like for example, hashtag Joe Biden, hashtag Donald Trump, right? Just as an example. Well, when people are searching for those, then they already know, hey, wait a minute, here's somebody who has classified their video as this topic
Right.
or this keyword. I'm more likely to have YouTube connect me with those people than if I did nothing.
Right.
And a lot of channels, they don't put any metadata or secondary data in there. And so YouTube's kind of relying on their artificial intelligence, which is still pretty new, to figure out what is your video about. They don't know. When you launch, they have no idea what your video's about unless a human reviews it,
Right.
Which doesn't happen anymore. And so you have to think through, what data can I give YouTube so YouTube will do all the heavy lifting for
Right.
me? And I think that's one reason why I've grown, is I've just said, okay, who's better at this, YouTube or Stephen Gardner? YouTube. So I default to everything, every little trick I can think of to getting YouTube to connect me with the right people.
So basically, as you said, more important than thumbnails, good title, good video description, and then I guess hashtagging content.
Yeah, the hashtag, just because people go on and you have to just think about the person on the other side of the computer. What are they typing in so that you can be found?
Right.
And if you're just putting, like I have another friend, he just puts up stuff, and then he says, oh, YouTube's racist, or they don't like my content, or they suppress me, and I'm like, no, dude, your metadata is terrible. So having that metadata for YouTube to use to your advantage is really, really important, and most YouTubers miss that.
It's interesting when I think about the varying, this people who are putting so much different content out there, and then how would they hashtag, or how would they characterize that this is it, and how it gets matched up. I know like a lot of people complain on different social media platforms, especially Twitter, before and after Elon, to a point of, hey, I've got all these followers, but I think I'm being suppressed, or I'm being shadow banned, or whatever it might be. In YouTube, when you post a new video, are they automatically putting it into the feeds of all your subscribers, or is there a way to enhance that?
They used to. They don't now. Nobody knows the algorithm, and it changes regularly, and so you have to keep looking for those patterns. But so if I have 1.25 million people, they're going to, in the first hour, they're going to test that to a very small portion and see how they respond. If they respond really well, they open it up to more people. If those people respond really well, then they open it up. If a lot of old people and new people are responding really well, your video might go viral. And I've had that before. It doesn't happen that often. Again, you never really know what the algorithm is going to do with the content. If you've said words that offend YouTube's, people behind the scenes, or you've said things that people are searching, right? So I'll give you an example. Tucker Carlson is let go from Fox News, right? Every channel that was talking about Tucker Carlson was getting huge hits. It was this massive spike in data. And so if you talked about it, you had a thumbnail about it, or it was in your title, you had a great chance of picking up a lot of eyeballs. So you have to be conscious of things like that. Same thing, let's say that you started a channel about soccer. you're going to want to hit on the names of the soccer teams. You're going to want to hit on the names of the hot players.
Right.
I call this drafting, where when I was in high school, I had a really piece of crap car. I would get behind semi-trucks, right? And I would try to save on gas mileage and also effort going up Parley's Canyon,
Right.
where they were hitting all the wind and I was just kind of behind them, right? And so you can do the same thing on YouTube, where you can use celebrities' names, big events, sporting events, whatever it is, and you draft off of those names and those searches in order to grow your channel. So, like with the stimulus check thing, I had one video that got me 45,000 new subscribers.
Wow.
It's insane. It's absolutely. It would be like the entire football stadium of Ohio State suddenly saying, "Who's this Stephen Gardner guy?"
Right.
It was because I hit the right words at the right time when all these millions of people were searching, and they hit subscribe because they were like, "I trust this guy's information," right? You can do the same thing with mountain biking or video editing or magic or card tricks or whatever it is that you want to do. You just have to always be conscious. Don't put out what you want. Put out what people are searching or what they're thinking about. And if you do that, it greatly increases your chances for success.
Yeah, it seems weird to me that if somebody literally says, "Hey, I want to subscribe to this guy's channel, so I want to know when he's putting out content," that, I'm not automatically going to get it. So I guess, do you communicate at all with your audience, saying, "Hey, come to my page to see what I'm putting out," because you might not see it otherwise, or you just assume everybody understands to do that?
Never assume anyone understands YouTube.
Okay.
Most people are just consuming. Until you really understand behind the curtain, it's a whole different animal.
Right.
So it's very frustrating. Like I was saying to your guys here today, like I don't know why they even have a subscribe button anymore, because they don't push your content out
Right.
to all of your subscribers. So frustrating that way, but this is why the email list has become so important, is it's like, okay, yeah, they're subscribed to you, and they're on your email, so why are you doing a notification? Because they might not get that notification from YouTube.
Right.
And so to have an insurance policy, I will hit them again. Then what I do is I just don't hit them too often, and so that way when I do, they're like, oh, this video must be important, and then boom, I have a good open rate, good click-through rate. And so that's been really helpful. Then I'll do like community polls. I'll share pictures of my family.
On YouTube?
On YouTube. This is more, it's almost like a Facebook feature where you're just putting out like a static photo with a description or some kind of poll where people can interact and share information. Those things also pull people back in. They're also really great for collecting data.
Yeah.
And so once you have a large enough group, you can actually put things out and they'll tell you what content they want to see, maybe what their voting preference is, or who they like or don't like, or what they thought of an event, and you can use all of that to give them a better show. But at the end of the day, it might pull them in based off a poll, and then they go, oh yeah, I haven't seen this guy's video in a couple of days, I'll go back and watch it.
Do you get together with other YouTubers and sort of mastermind, the strategies, like where you guys say, hey, I've been doing this is working, that's that working, or are you kind of like in your own little universe?
I tried to, and most YouTubers are very stingy with sharing what's working on their channel, even when you're not a competitor.
Yeah.
It's like they spend so much time doing pattern recognition on their own channel that if they finally figure something out, they don't really want to share that with somebody else. I try to be really open. I remember years ago hearing Mr. Beast. When he first started, he had 5 or 6 friends, and they would put out videos, and then they would spend the rest of the day saying, hey, it might have been this color on this thumbnail, or this wording, or this logo, or the fact that I started my video this way but ended it this way, the fact that I asked them to subscribe versus just hoping they would subscribe. And they would do this, I think, 5 days a week for like 5 hours a day.
Wow.
Just sharing what was working between the 5 or 6 of them. And then he said, at the end of the year, every person in that group had over 1 million subscribers.
Wow.
And so I tried to put something like that together, and it got like no traction. I'm like, I'm not even asking for money.
Yeah.
I'm like, just will you share data with me?
Right.
People are very private on YouTube about what's working and not working. But I try to be open. I mean, I don't maybe share everything, especially because a lot of the people I talk to are in the same vein
Right.
or niche as me.
Right.
But if they ask me, I'm usually very open. I believe title is one of the most important things. And I shared this with a couple of other YouTubers. I'll spend 15 to 30 minutes writing out dozens of titles, and then I'll narrow it down, and then I'll crumple it up and throw it away. And they're like, why do you do that? And I'm like, to get better at titles. And so then I'll share titles with them. I'm like, hey, that particular video, what if you had done this title? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. And sometimes they'll use it and sometimes they don't.
There's no way to test it, I guess, right? Once you just pick it, you pick it and release it, and then you don't try to...
If a video is not taking off within the first 60 minutes, sometimes I'll switch the title or the thumbnail or both. But usually once something goes out into the ether, it just has a mind of its own.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
I had a video yesterday, it started off really slow, and my thumbnail and research guy was like, should we switch this? And I was like, no, let's just let it go. I'm busy with family stuff. And then at nighttime, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, the video just took off.
Wow.
And I never know. Like I brought on a new Army colonel to talk about the Russia-Ukraine war. Nobody had heard of him. It was my first time interviewing him. My other ones had done well. That video went to the moon. It was getting 100,000 views an hour.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, it like dropped off. Like someone at YouTube went, we don't want this video being seen. And the views just like dropped. And it was incredible.
And that's probably the most plausible explanation, right? Somebody just said, we want to
Either that
lower
or
the heat here.
Yeah, either that or like they like just hit so many eyeballs that they were like, whoa, we got to slow this down. Or everybody who normally watches me just watched it all in the first 2 hours
Yeah.
versus the 24-hour period. Because most of my stuff after 24 hours, it kind of dies.
Yeah.
The news cycle is new and they move on.
Do you repurpose any of your work, like meaning like distribute through podcast platforms where people can consume it in other ways, or do you just release on YouTube?
Right now, I just release on YouTube, but my team and I were probably going to start taking that and moving it over to Rumble, and maybe even to Facebook. But some of the stuff I talk about, you couldn't talk about on those platforms, and
Right.
so I just kind of stuck with YouTube. YouTube was a little bit more generous than other platforms during the lockdown. But yes, I am looking at possibly doing another language. I'm also looking at possibly hitting other platforms. So now it's just finding the right team.
Yeah.
And that's where things get a little bit scary, because it's like, what's working that got me this big, I'm very comfortable with, I'm in control. But the same tools and tactics I use to get to 1 million are not at all the tools and tactics I need to get to 2 million.
Right.
But it's scary to turn that over to somebody else. But I've been able to do that over the last about 11 months, and it has worked out in my favor. But it was a learning curve.
Yeah, it's got to
and,
be a
and
little
trust
scary.
curve.
Yeah, yeah. Well, trust is your primary value, right?
Yeah.
So that's a tough thing, because you're saying, hey, what I've done is working, but now you're at that fork in the road, right? Either you're going to just keep doing the same thing, or you're going to try to grow. And I guess you're choosing to explore new strategies for growth.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like any business, right? What got you from 0 to 1 million, let's say in revenue instead of viewers, to get from 1 to 3 million, you got to reorganize a bit, and it's a different thing that's going to get you there. So it's that's I guess the challenge and maybe the fun of it too. So it's not the same old, same old.
Yeah, there's a great book by Roger Hamilton called Millionaire Master Plan.
Yeah, he's in this series, incidentally.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I didn't know that. So I read his book, and he was the one that opened my eyes and made me realize, okay, what got me to 500,000 isn't what gets me to 1 million.
Right.
What got me to 1 million isn't what gets me to 2 million.
Right.
And so, but it's really hard when you're growing. You think, oh, it's easy, you just grow. But it's like, okay, new person, be me and be just as good, but you're brand new.
Yeah.
And it's really scary to hand off the reins.
Yeah.
And yet, if you don't do it, I can't stay in my creative flow, which is what I'm best at. And so over time, you just have to train people to be what you need them to be, but at the same time, allow them to be themselves and trust that the way you mow the lawn is good. You know, the way you write a script is good enough, and I can tweak it, you know, but it is hard to release that control, especially when you've been doing it by yourself, making really good money. Incidentally, I got to my first 1 million subscribers on a broken iPhone.
Come on.
And
That was your only camera that you
It was
ever
my
recorded?
only camera. To this day, I still only use an iPhone, and people make fun of me. But I want your people to know that, like, you can make money on YouTube as a side hustle.
Yeah.
You don't need all of this expensive equipment. Yes, it makes it better.
Yeah.
And you know, having all of those things. But I literally had a number 6 iPhone with a crack in it, and that's what I was filming on. So don't let your resources hold you back as an excuse.
No excuses. Yeah, that's. Thank you for sharing that, because that's unbelievable.
I've never told that to anybody. Also, you know, people ask me all the time, like, why do you make such terrible thumbnails? Because I don't know how to make them. I just hold up a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But I got to 1 million subscribers holding a piece of paper. So, but now it's not the thing that will get me to 2 million. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, there's an old adage, you know, the founder's strength is the company's weakness, right? Yeah. So you were a founder and you grew it to 1 million, but now it's more of a company. So there's a new strategy there. Any final words of wisdom or encouragement for people who saying, yeah, inflation has squeezed me. I can't really meet my bills, you know, in my current job because inflation has way outpaced any increase in my salary, and now it's not even like a dream, but a necessity that I create some kind of a side hustle. And YouTube has always sort of spoken to me. You know, what would you say to them?
Some of the best advice I was given, I was about 25 years old. I just had my first child. Money was tight. This was actually Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
I was listening to a tape, and he said, you can work full-time on your job and part-time on your fortune. And that has always stuck with me 15 years later, where people think their side hustle like has to replace their income, or it's not really worth my time or whatever, but any additional action you can take that makes money is a good thing. And then you have to just be really good at prioritizing your time. And I do believe that eventually those two can switch, where now you're working full-time on your passion and your fortune, and maybe part-time on a job, and then eventually you can let that go, be an entrepreneur, self-employed, something like that. So I would say just throw yourself into it. And another piece of really good advice came from Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. He said, don't follow your passion. Follow opportunity and bring your passion with you.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I don't want to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump and the Washington machine that takes our tax money and all of that, but there was an opportunity. I was good at it, and then I just brought my passion and my own unique personality. But I don't like talking about politics. I find them to be gross, and I could never be a politician. But there was an opportunity there. And so if you can blend opportunity and passion, then you're probably gonna, you know, have even more success than I did. But I would say go for it.
Yeah.
And just know that it takes lots of hard work. I used to stay up till 1 a.m. answering people's comments because I continued to look at YouTube as a social media platform and not a video platform. And so my wife would say, you know, you got to come to bed. And I would tell her what was going on, but reading those comments fed me what people wanted to hear the next day. So anyone that's starting out, I would just say, be patient with yourself, but know that there's tremendous amounts of money to be made on YouTube.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you're a real inspiration, Steve. I very much appreciate you openly sharing your YouTube secrets or your YouTube journey, but it's definitely an inspiration. I thank you for taking the time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, that completes my interview with Stephen Gardner. Can you tell I had a lot of fun with him? I mean, the guy is just real. How he gets on camera, and he's the exact same guy as soon as the camera goes off. He's very trustworthy, very natural, very real, and I think that's a big key to his success. There's a lot to learn from him. Thanks for being here.